We're not always going to love the jobs that we have. Sometimes, desperate times call for desperate measures, and taking a job that we don't necessarily like can be one of those desperate measures. Celebrities seem to also have this problem as well. I mean, sure, they're paid much more for their jobs than ours, but that doesn't mean that they always have to like them. I have a list of celebrities who know the struggle, so let's get to counting down the top 10 actors who were forced to take roles they hated. At number 10, Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum is one of Hollywood's many heartthrobs. Any role that requires an attractive muscle man, Channing Tatum could fill. However, he might not always be happy about doing that. Though he found a lot of success in other movies like 21 Jump Street and Magic Mike, when it came to the G.I. Joe movie back in 2009, the actor wasn't too thrilled about his part in the film. While doing an interview with Howard Stern, Channing spoke out about his feelings towards the movie and his part in it, where he told the audience that he didn't want the part in the movie in the first place. Going into more detail, the actor said that he was, quote, pushed into doing that movie, end quote. Channing also said that he was forced to take the part because he had to fulfill a contract that he had with Paramount Pictures. The actor also told the audience that though he liked G.I. Joe growing up, when it came to the film, the quote, script was subpar, and he was unsure if he wanted to actually be Joe, end quote. The film ended up being pretty subpar as the script suggested, and it got pretty mediocre ratings. This ended up saddling Channing with an underperforming movie, and that's never good for someone's career. At number 9, Mike Meyers. Does anyone else remember the Cat in the Hat live-action film from 2003 starring Mike Meyers? I certainly do. It was pretty cringy, but in a good way since I was a little kid then, and I found everything to be unbelievably hilarious. I enjoyed that movie as a kid, but one person who didn't like it was the Cat in the Hat himself, Mike Meyers. After the success of Austin Powers, Mike was set to bump up his comedy and star in a production based on one of his old characters. But before that was all carried out, the actor and the studio got into some debates and there were legal troubles. All of that was just some unnecessary drama. Well, they both ended up reaching an agreement, and it obligated Mike to star in the Cat in the Hat movie. He never wanted to sign up for it, and he really made it known how badly he didn't want to be there. According to people who worked with him on set during the filming of The Cat in the Hat, Mike was very rude and dismissive, and he refused to talk to anyone. He became a hermit and a diva apparently, and this whole experience and the subsequent film were all so bad that Dr. Seuss's widow said that she would never allow Hollywood to make another movie based on Seuss's books again. Now before I carry on with the video, I would first like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one and continue supporting our platform. At number 8, Jennifer Garner. After the success of the 2003 film Daredevil based on the Marvel comic, the studio decided, hey, this made us a lot of money, how about a spin-off? And so they did it. The spin-off film was based on Jennifer Garner's character from Daredevil named Elektra. It was looking like it would be very successful based on the success of the Daredevil movie, but sometimes things just don't always work out the way you would expect it, and the Elektra film tanked at the box office and received a lot of negative reviews as well. Later on in interviews, Jennifer went on to say how even she hated the film. Later she explained that the only reason why she agreed to the film was because Daredevil was in her contract, but she wished that she was never part of the movie because of how bad it was. At number 7, Edward Norton. Edward Norton was on the rise in Hollywood after he landed his breakout role in Primal Fear in 1996, which turned him into an Oscar-nominated star. This brought him a lot of new opportunities because everyone wanted him, but it also sort of turned him into a diva. With his role in Primal Fear, he was signed onto a 3-movie deal, but he never ended up following through on this. The studio ended up taking action against the actor and decided that in order to allow him to star in the 1999 film Fight Club, he had to make one last film for Paramount after filming for Fight Club ended. It took him another couple years to get to filming another movie for Paramount, and that only happened because the studio forced Norton's hand. They offered him a role in The Italian Job, and at first he refused the role, but both parties lawyered up and threatened to take this matter to court, and Edward finally caved and took the role even though he didn't want to. At number 6, Keanu Reeves. Actor Keanu Reeves found a lot of success after starting in The Matrix, and with that came a lot of drama. Coming out of the success of The Matrix, Keanu got blindsided by his friend Joe Charbonnet. Charbonnet allegedly forged Keanu's signature and forced the actor into starring in the serial killer film The Watcher. Because Keanu was unable to prove that Charbonnet actually forged his signature, and in the interest of avoiding a costly legal battle, Keanu went on to star in the movie, but he stayed super salty about it. When it came time for the movie's release, the actor did nothing to promote the movie. On top of that, he was contractually obligated to refrain from talking about how he got involved in the movie in the first place. However, that saltiness did build up, so when that contract expired, the actor was able to talk about the movie, and he didn't hold back on spilling the tea on how things went down. He did not hold a single detail back. At number 5, Emily Blunt. Actress Emily Blunt first got her rise to fame after starring in the film The Devil Wears Prada. After the success of that film, she was receiving offers from everywhere, including Marvel Studios, who were at one point considering her to play the role of Black Widow in Iron Man 2. Well, obviously that never happened, and instead she went on to play a role that she didn't exactly want. Fox Studios, the makers of The Devil Wears Prada, wanted Emily to appear in the new remake of Gulliver's Travels. Unfortunately, Emily had no choice but to say yes, because there was a little fine print in her contract when she signed on to be in The Devil Wears Prada that indicated that she had to star in one more film with the network, and the network chose Gulliver's Travels. The film ended up being a total failure, but luckily it didn't hurt the actress's career. At number 4, Shia LaBeouf. Even though Shia LaBeouf was the go-to guy for the Transformers franchise, turns out he started to really hate it after doing too many films. When the actor first signed on to be in the first Transformers film, he was contracted into a 3-movie deal. But it turns out that after the second one, he was completely over this story and wasn't afraid to speak out about it either, even calling out the film's director, Michael Bay. When speaking out about his feelings towards the Transformers films, Shia said, quote, "There were some really wild stunts in it, but the heart was gone. We got lost. Mike went in so big that it became too big. Unless you have those relationships, then the movie doesn't matter. Then it's just a bunch of robots fighting each other." End quote. The films were always a success, so even though Shia didn't want to be part of the franchise anymore, the fans still loved him and the movies that he made. At number 3, Natalie Portman. I might get roasted for this one, but the second Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World, wasn't really all that great. Another person who really wasn't a fan of the movie was one of the film's stars, Natalie Portman, who played the love interest, Jane Foster. When she signed on to the first Thor film, she brought a lot of clout to the film since she was already a pretty big name in Hollywood, and at the time the MCU needed that since they were just starting out. But it seems as though the studio got a little greedy with Natalie, because even though she didn't really want to be in the Thor sequel, she was essentially bribed with a promise that the specific director would come on to direct the film. Well, when that director eventually backed out, Natalie was still contractually obligated to stay, and so they were able to rope her in for one last movie. The actress lost out on the one thing that made filming worth her while, and she still had to stay on set even though she didn't want to. After that, Natalie swore off making another film, as she said, quote, "As far as I know, I'm done. I don't know if maybe one day they'll ask for an Avengers 7 or whatever, I have no idea, but as far as I know, I'm done." End quote. Funnily enough, Natalie is set to appear in the next Thor film, Thor: Love and Thunder, so we'll just have to wait and see how she feels about this experience. At number 2, Daniel Craig. I know actor Daniel Craig as the latest person to take up the role of James Bond, but apparently Daniel Craig wishes he never took up the role. The actor is very vocal about how much he hates playing James Bond, and when promoting the movie Skyfall in 2012, he really let his feelings about the role be known, as he said, quote, "I've been trying to get out of this from the moment I got into it, but they won't let me go, and I've agreed to a couple more." End quote. You would think that after some more time, he would have warmed up to the character, but no, not really. Back in 2015, during the release of the next Bond film, Spectre, Daniel got even more heated when talking about the role when he said, quote, "At this moment, no. I have a life, I've got to get on with it." End quote. He also went on to say that he would, quote, "rather break this glass and slash his wrist than to be in another Bond film." He must have been really mad when he had to take up the role yet again for No Time to Die, which comes out this fall. And finally, at number 1, Jessica Alba. I have to say that I really liked Jessica Alba in the Fantastic Four movies, but she, on the other hand, did not. When she was cast in the first Fantastic Four movie, she was put under a 3-film contract, so when the first film did well and the sequel was announced, it wasn't much of a surprise, but when the film did come around, it was such a bust, and Jessica hated the movie so much that she almost considered quitting acting for good. Luckily for her, since the sequel did so bad, they never made a third movie, but she did grow to hate the character Sue Storm because of how bad the films ended up being. Maybe it's just the curse of the Fantastic Four, because even the reboot they did a couple years ago did even worse than the original, so honestly, I don't know. Now before I wrap things up for today, I want you guys to leave me a comment telling me if you could have any job in the world, what would it be and why? There are so many options out there, I would love to know what you guys would do, so let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's it for me. I've been your host, Bree Room, and until next time, stay safe, make good choices, and stay groovy, friends.